So we left off with Halima's question about Milgram. Uske alawa, did anyone else have other question, or you guys okay? And we can move on. Kya scene hai? Fatma, what about you? So the last, is it last? Yeah, huh? It's last. The last explanation for impulse control disorder is gonna be the impulse control disorder theory given by Miller. And this is important. अगर ये समझ में नहीं आया ना तो समझो कि impulse control disorder का chapter ही समझ में नहीं आया. Because this guy has an explanation and this guy also has a treatment. So to understand the treatment, you guys need to know his explanation better. So Miller, cognitive. So we have one biochemical theory, dopamine ki thi. Behavioral is the positive reinforcement and cognitive is the Miller. So like, it's all good तीनों aspect cover हो गया. So cognitive theory given by Miller of impulse control disorder, ठीक है ना? He says that when we get addicted to things, right? Fire setting, stealing, or gambling, we feel pleasure, right? That's understood. हमें pleasure मिलता है. So instead of pleasure, I'm going to use the word intense positive feelings. Yeah. So Miller says that whenever you do gambling, you have intense positive feelings happen to you, and you have to use the word intense. It's not positive; it's intense positive. So you cannot know people, according to Miller, have positive feelings, but people who have problems have intense positive feelings. So इनके pleasure इतने ज़्यादा हो जाते हैं कि problematic बन जाता है. So intense positive feeling is made of three things: intense positive emotions, intense positive thoughts, intense positive physiological experience, right? Let's suppose that you are a person who gambles. Gambling के बारे में intense positive thoughts आ रहे होंगे कि thoughts तो positive होंगे, like I'm a winner, whatever, like, लेकिन वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा frequently अगर होते हैं तो उनकी intensity बढ़ जाती है. Gambling के दौरान you feel happy, बहुत ही ज़्यादा happy, it's like so happy कि लोग थोड़ा परेशान हो जाएंगे देख के कि यार जिंदगी में और कुछ चीज़ से खुश नहीं होता तुम, वो वाला सीन रहेगा. And you're gonna have good physiological experience के heart beat तेज होगी, right? Adrenaline rush होगा, right? क्या कहते हैं, all the good things जो like happening to your body. So all of this combined, Miller कहता है कि हम तीनों चीज को combine करके बोलेंगे intense positive feeling. So there's one component that you have to remember. This can have intense positive feeling, which focuses on emotion, physiological experience, and thoughts. Positive emotions, positive thoughts, and positive physiological experience all combine to make intense positive feelings. Miller कहता है कि this intense positive feeling, it gets combined with a behavior or a memory of a behavior. So yeah. Now this can happen to anything, even things that's not related to gambling. As in, for example, if you remember, you went to your grandma's house, like grandma ke ghar mein jaate hain. Maybe grandma's no longer in this world, ठीक है ना? So maybe you have a memory of grandma. Every summer you used to visit grandma, उनके घर में जाते थे. So when you have that memory, you're gonna feel good about it while you're recalling that. You're gonna have positive thoughts about it. And क्या पता कि you might have a good physiological experience about it as well. So memory के साथ भी आ सकती है. क्योंकि Miller is a cognitive person and cognitions also involve memory. ठीक है. But intense positive feeling gets combined with either a behavior of something, yeah, memory of something. So the combination of these two, intense positive feeling plus behavior, intense positive feeling plus memory को एक और terminology बोलते हैं. इसका हम बोलते हैं feeling state. यहाँ पे पॉजिटिव फीलिंग लिखा हुआ है, ये गलत है. यहाँ पे इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग लिखा होना चाहिए बीच में. बट सो व्हेन दीज टू कंबाइन, राइट, इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग एंड अ बिहेवियर और अ मेमोरी, इसको हम कॉम्बिनेशन के अंदर फीलिंग स्टेट बोलते हैं. एंड दिस इज व्हाट मिलर states, this feeling state is actually responsible for making the person have impulse control disorder. So example of a feeling state, right? Intense positive feeling associated with gambling or associating winning a lottery. excitement, happiness, thoughts, I'm a winner, and his body will have these symptoms. These combined with having, like hitting a jackpot or memory of hitting a jackpot, you're going to have an intense, a feeling state of jackpot. Okay, so this is what Miller says. Now, Miller says that, he recognizes that intense positive feeling combining with the memory and intense positive feeling combining with the behavior are conceptually same but different. So मिरर कहता है कि जो इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग जो बिहेवियर के साथ कंबाइन होती है ना, मैं उसको फीलिंग स्टेट बोलूंगा, और जो इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग जो मेमोरी के साथ कंबाइन होती है ना, मैं उसको स्टेट डिपेंडेंट मेमोरी बोलूंगा. सही है. That's what you guys have to kind of clarify on. If intense positive feeling is combined with a behavior, is feeling state. But if intense positive feeling combines with the memory, it is a state dependent memory. Asandazuna is a memory of a feeling state, right? So please clarify that. So okay, makes sense. You know what? This combination, जब ये दोनों चीजें मिल जाएंगी, तो it's a very deadly combination. It's going to like make the person wanna have develop a gambling disorder. But Miller goes one step further. He also explains why in the world would a person want this? Why would they want intense positive feelings to happen to them in the first place? Why they want it? Why aren't they good without it? So Miller कहता है the reason why a person will want to have intense positive feeling is because अंदर से ना वो depressed है. Miller says कि उनका एक negative belief होता है अपने बारे में, and that negative belief, it depresses them, right? They feel very crappy about it. So Miller कहता है कि this negative belief को दूर करने के लिए ना, they engage in behaviors which gives them intense positive feeling. Or in other words, to escape that negative belief, they want to enter the state of a feeling state. They want to get over here क्योंकि यहाँ पे उनको अच्छा महसूस होता है. बट होता क्या है, मिरर कहता है कि जब वो कोई ना कोई चीज करते हैं ना फीलिंग स्टेट लेने के लिए, गैम्बलिंग, आग लगाना, पायरोमेनिया, मसला इनके साथ ये होता है कि कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाती है. या तो पैसे चले जाएंगे गैम्बलिंग करते हुए, या तो पुलिस पकड़ ली आग लगाते हुए, या चोरी करते हैं पुलिस पकड़ लेगी. So they're gonna mess up, right? Eventually. So when they mess up, what happens? Their negative belief that they had about themselves before, it becomes more solidified. It becomes more stronger. So जिसके ऐसे negative belief की intensity बढ़ जाएगी. So what happens then? Then that person will then become more desperate to get intense positive feeling. So they're going to engage in more behaviors as gambling, fire setting, or stealing. Just case they're going to mess up more. Just case they're going to have negative belief again. So it's a cycle that repeats itself. So yeah. So that's why a person wants to have a feeling state, so that they can escape the negative belief that they have about themselves. Masala kya hota hai, they cannot escape it, because when they want to get this, they eventually mess up and they end up here again. So yeah. So Cambridge के अंदर तुम्हें क्या आया? Wait, hold on, I have a question. The negative consequences don't weaken the feeling state? No, it doesn't. क्योंकि if it was a behavioral explanation, if it was a behavioral theory, then it would have weakened the feeling state. लेकिन यहाँ पे मसला है, यहाँ पे cognitive theory ना, तो cognitive theory argues कि a person will not obey the laws of behavioralism. A person is free to do whatever they want to do, भले उनके साथ negative consequences होंगे. So yeah, it does not weaken the, बल्कि rather strengthens it. उसकी desire to have a feeling state और ज़्यादा strengthen जाएगी. Think of feeling state as a drug. The more crappy you feel about it, the more bad you want the feeling state. Can you please repeat what's the state-dependent memory? State-dependent memory is when an intense positive feeling gets combined with a memory. Memory ke saath. That's known as a state-dependent memory. But when intense positive feeling gets combined with a behavior, usko feeling state कहते हैं. So intense positive feeling plus behavior, feeling state. Intense positive feeling plus memory, state-dependent memory. Say it, or you want me to explain again?
नहीं सर, समझ में आ गया. थैंक यू.
So when you read your book, the क्या नाम उसका, the Julia Russell वाली किताब, I think थोड़ा सा उसमें कॉफी के साथ पढ़ने की जरूरत पड़ेगी क्योंकि it's like not as much straightforwardly written but that's what it is. आगे और कुछ नहीं है मिरर के बारे में और कुछ डिस्कस करने को बस यही है. So केम्ब्रिज के लोग क्या आंसर एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं? Explain the state feeling state theory given by Miller, right? So basically you're gonna say कि जब feeling state जो है ना इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग जो है ठीक है ना किसी बिहेवियर के साथ जुड़ जाती है ठीक है ना एंड दे गो ऑन लेटर टू फॉर्म अ स्टेट डिपेंडेंट मेमोरी. I know this explanation is going to confuse you. Just think about this. It's very easy. The first time you do it, the first time, right? You do something, and when it gives you intense positive feeling, it is going to be known as a feeling state. Okay, पहली दफा कर रहा हो. But after that time has passed, so whatever you did is going to get converted into memory, right? So now the intense positive feeling is going to get combined with the memory and go on to make a state dependent memory. So it's kind of similar to a dopamine thing we discussed. पहले तुम behavior करते हो उससे मजा आता है ठीक है ना बाद में तुम्हें अगर behavior करने को नहीं मिले तो तुम्हें memory से मजा आना शुरू हो जाता है. यहाँ पे भी वही चीज है. Like do you guys get this particular statement? Yeah, do you want me to throw about clarify it again? All right, please repeat. ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है. All right. All right. See, this is Zara, right? And Zara is what? Zara has never gambled in her life. Never ever. Something happens and Zara decides to gamble. First time she's gambling, and the first time she wins money, right? The first time is the first time. First time she does it, and I'm gonna write which when the first time she does it does. Well, you're actually there in the gambling hall gambling. She wins. She the first time she does it, she wins. So basically, she's going to have an intense positive feeling combined with behavior of gambling, right? जिसको हम cumulatively या आसान लफ्जों में इसको हम feeling state बोलते हैं. You guys should know this by now. When intense positive feeling combines with the behavior, it's known as feeling state, right? Makes sense. So everyone's same page यहाँ पे. But what happens बाद में? कि what if Zara feels crappy again? And what if she can't gamble? What if she's back in Pakistan यहाँ पे? And you know what? Pakistan में, you know what? Gambling is banned, so she can't gamble. Now there's a problem. पहले उसने gambling कर लिया था. She was in Las Vegas. Now she's back in Pakistan. अब gambling नहीं कर सकती. But let's remember, ये पहले अब कर चुकी है. अब पहले कर चुकी है. So what she's going to do, if she can gamble, she will recall the incident of gambling, or in other words, memory of gambling इस्तेमाल करिए, right? And जब वो memory of gambling दिमाग में लाएगी ना उसके साथ आप intense positive feeling भी आ जाएगा. Now you guys know that when memory combines with intense positive feeling, it's called state dependent memory कहते हैं, right? Zara अभी तक जो is the two boxes clear? अभी तक जो story सुनाई है, कहानी clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what this says that you know what, feeling state is when intense positive feeling is linked with specific event, right? This is यही हुआ यहाँ पे. State intense feeling state, right, is when intense positive feeling combines with some specific event. यही हुआ है. And बाद में जाके it forms a state dependent memory. अब ये देखो बाद में जाके क्या बन गया? State dependent memory. कि बाद में तुम इसको याद करोगे ना, ये तुम्हारा पूरा पूरा बाद में जाके बिहेवियर बन जाएगा, ये पूरा डब्बा. And ये फिर intense positive feeling के साथ associate होके क्या बनाएगा? State dependent memory. So that's what the thing is saying. ये clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
पक्की बात है?
जी.
All right. Fatma, like you on the same page?
Yes, sir.
All right. हाँ, ये 2 मार्क का था. ये कभी कभार 4 मार्क के लिए पूछते हैं. So what is the entire summary of it? the entire summary of it is going to be this. Intense positive feeling combines with behavior, ठीक है ना? बाद में आके स्टेट डिपेंडेंट मेमोरी बन जाता, ठीक है? So ये we know this. आगे जाके इलेबोरेशन पॉइंट कौन सा मारेगा, बेसिकली तुम्हें बताना पड़ेगा कि इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग अंदर एक्चुअली होता क्या है, तो तुम्हें तीनों कंपोनेंट के बारे में बात करनी होगी, ठीक है? एंड तुम्हें फिर बताना पड़ेगा कि किस बिहेवियर के साथ एसोसिएट होगा, तो यू आर सपोज टू गिव सम स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल ऑफ अ बिहेवियर एंड स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल ऑफ थॉट्स फीलिंग्स एंड फिजियोलॉजिकल अराउजल, ठीक है? जब तुम ये बोल दोगे तो उसके बाद में क्या बोलना पड़ेगा, तुम फिर बिलीफ वाले एस्पेक्ट के ऊपर भी बात करोगे. The reason why it happens is the person has a negative belief about themselves and they want to not have that negative belief. So they will engage in behaviors that brings them the feeling state. But what happens is they mess up. Oh, okay, you won't write the word mess up. They have negative consequences happen to them again, which solidifies the negative belief and increases their desire to have a feeling state again. So they're trapped in a cycle, and this is why addiction happens. So yeah, individuals negative thought about themselves can experience an intense positive feeling of euphoria, overcoming that negative thought to a great extent, right? But in that process, they encounter some negative consequence, which solidifies their negative belief, which allows them to increase the desire to experience a feeling state again, which then creates a cycle that they cannot break out of. So that's going to be an entire explanation, TK, for Miller's impulse control theory. 100% पक्की बात, there is no problem in understanding Miller's impulse control theory. पक्की बात है? So evaluating Miller's impulse control theory, is it deterministic or is it free will? It is deterministic because the reason is that पहली बात, it is cognition, thought process involved in. You can actually change your thought processes, right? So it is gonna be free will. Can't get thought. Yeah, you can actually influence this. And you can change your thought process as well. So if you change your thoughts, you change your emotions as well. That's how it works. So it is this aspect. These two aspects are in your control. Physiological arousal, it's not in your control. There's no way that you can make sure that your heartbeat normal ho the moment you sit on a roller coaster, right? There's no way. So same thing gambling. Agar tumhe koi cheez acha lag raha hai, तो my heartbeat बढ़ेगा. So physiological aspect may come under the concept of, deterministic. Only this much. Lekin if you consider the entire picture, the thoughts, the emotions, the positive feeling, a person can choose their thoughts and then the person can influence their emotion through their thoughts. If you want more proof that this is under the person's control, it is free will. मेरे ने इसकी थेरेपी भी दी हुई है, जहाँ पे बंदा जो है ना इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग के ऊपर खुद काम करेगा. So that's why it is completely or largely free will, right? So Miller argues that if you change the person's thought process about an event, उसके emotions भी change हो जाएंगे. And जब उसके emotions change होंगे ना, तो उसके physiological experience भी change हो सकते हैं. Because let's suppose if you feel happy, तुम्हारे physiological arousal अलग होगा. If you feel neutral, तुम्हारा physiological arousal अलग होगा. So by Miller's impulse control therapy, right, we can change up how a person reacts, or we can change the intensity of the positive feeling, जिसके base पे तीनों चीजें change हो जाएंगी. So it's free will largely. It is an individual situation. It is individual because it consists of a person's thoughts about that particular incident, right? Many people will gamble, many people will win the lottery, but हर किसी के दिमाग में जो thought आएगा ना after winning the lottery अलग होगा. हर किसी का जो physiological arousal, हर किसी का जो emotion है, उसकी intensity अलग होगी. So and it all comes down to the individual's cognition. So that's why it is completely individual. It's not situational. Individual situational. Is it a reductionist? Well, I would say no, because this Miller, he's considering emotions, thoughts, physiological arousal. He's considering the consequence when it combines with the behavior. He's looking at an angle, what happens when it combines with the memory. So in that regard, I would feel that he has lots of elements going on in his theory. He is looking at multiple factors, so that's why it's going to be holistic in my view, right? But you can argue कि it is still gonna be reductionist somewhat. You can say कि कुछ ना कुछ तो इसने miss out किया होगा. For example, he might have missed out on क्या कहते हैं the dopamine aspect of it. ठीक है ना? He's not considering the biochemical influence. Physiological तो कर रहा है, but you know what? This is not dopamine. So he's missing on the biochemical aspect. So you might say that there's something he has missed out on. Otherwise, I would feel that compared to other theories, he is more holistic. Okay. Nature nurture. This is nurture. The reason being that this association, right, has to develop. पैदाइशी association नहीं बना होता. So the person, when he goes through a certain behavior, then that association will develop, and that association will then result into forming of a memory. So सारा का सारा happens after the person is born. Sarakasara happens when you have an experience happen to you. So you acquire it, you develop it. So that's why it's nurture, it's not nature. It's gonna be, all right, is scientific? It's not scientific. There's no way you can study intense positive feeling, right? Is it objective? Nope, it's subjective. There's no way you can see intense positive feeling. So it's subjective because there's no way you can see his thought process. There's no way you can see the person's motion. Yeah, you can study the person's physiological aspects, but that's just one part of it. The majority of the portion of the things in the theory, you cannot study it objectively. So that's why it's largely subjective. Is it culture bias? Is it going to be influenced by culture? Well, Miller does not say so. ठीक है. He does not give any comments on this. हो भी सकता, हो भी नहीं सकता. We don't know, but if we had to apply our minds to it, right? We could argue that जो intense positive feeling theory may largely be there for individualistic culture, मतलब जहाँ पे Western society and collectivist culture, as an Eastern society, subcontinent, Asia, साउथ अमेरिका, वहाँ पे शायद थोड़ा सा अलग हुआ क्योंकि जो थॉट प्रोसेस होंगे ना वहाँ पे अपने बजाय शायद फैमिली को लेके कंसिडर करेंगे. यू नो व्हाट, मैं जैकपॉट जीत लेता हूँ इंस्टेड आई एम अ विनर, ठीक है, समथिंग अबाउट फैमिली के बारे में थॉट आएगी. एंड मे बी विद आई एम अ विनर समथिंग अबाउट एसोसिएशन आएगी. माय फैमिली विल नॉट. So they might think regard to other people as well that may influence their intense positive feeling. But largely Miller does not say anything about it, so it's very safe to say कि हम भी इसके बारे में कुछ नहीं करेंगे. तो culture bias क्योंकि बाकी दो theories में नहीं लग रही, हम भी नहीं बोलेंगे, हमें बोलने की जरूरत नहीं क्योंकि we already have so much content about it. So there's this experiment that is in paper 4 का ये design experiment to find out, okay, you know what, design experiment about the impulse control, a positive feeling wali theory के ऊपर. I have a question. What is that? Some cultures view gambling as more acceptable than others. That could be it. That yeah, you could say that, you know, some cultures is okay to gamble. तो वहाँ पे feeling of guilt will not be associated with gambling. Some cultures like ours, वहाँ पे gambling बुरा समझा जाता है. तो even the guilt will ruin the intense positive feeling part. So that could explain cultural differences in the theory. So yeah, I guess we can go with that. So good job, Halima. All right, so design an experiment to investigate the intensity of positive feeling. So basically you're gonna find out the intensity of positive feeling, right? About an event in people with and without impulse control disorder. So they're asking कि भाई तुम्हें एक experiment design करना है. तो मालूम करना है कि जिसको इम्पल्स कंट्रोल डिसऑर्डर है उनमें इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग कितनी इंटेंसिटी से आ रही है, और जिनके अंदर इंटेंस पॉजिटिव इम्पल्स कंट्रोल डिसऑर्डर नहीं है उनके अंदर इंटेंस पॉजिटिव फीलिंग कितनी इंटेंसिटी से आ रही है. सो देयर बेसिकली आस्किंग, यार दोनों ग्रुप में जिसको मसला है और जिसको मसला नहीं है, क्या दोनों ग्रुप के अंदर पॉजिटिव फीलिंग की इंटेंसिटी अलग होगी या सेम होगी? यू हैव टू फाइंड दैट आउट. ठीक है. So using the format हमें सबसे पहले IVDV establish करना होता है, right? So the IV is people with and without disorder. So but I feel you can be more specific about it. You can say people with gambling and without gambling, or people with klepto and without klepto, or people with pyromania without pyromania. So I guess you have to specify masla hai kaun sa in the first place. DV would be the difference in the intensity of positive feelings in both the groups. You can operationalize it, or you can specify it by saying the difference of intensity of positive feeling in both the groups using a rating scale to measure it. IV is clear, DV is clear. IV is people with and without. DV is the difference of intensity of positive feelings. अब यहाँ पे मसला क्या था, बच्चे जो है दे गो फुल आई डोंट नो मिलग्राम, यहाँ पे मिलग्राम वाली हरकतें करने दे गो वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स, दे डिजाइन सुपर कॉम्प्लेक्स एक्सपेरिमेंट्स व्हिच टेक्स अ अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. So students have to resist the idea of getting super complex. I know कि कर सकते हो, अच्छा करोगे, but keep it simple because you have short amount of time. So guys, suggestions, how will you do it? All right. Questionnaires. All right. So basically, the question says, okay, you have to find the difference of intensity of the positive feeling, right? But about what? About some event. So about an event. So I'm supposing that these two group of people will be asked about some specific event that is relatable to both of them. So what about that event? What are you going to ask about? What are the questions going to be? What event will you refer to? All right, semi-structured interviews, TK. Example questions about the interviews. 4 example questions. हमेशा याद रखना कि कम से कम अगर तुम्हें example questions दे रहे हो तो 4 example questions दो. Can we use novel situations? You can, but what is the novel situation that you will use? What is the scenario? What scenario is it? For specifically define करना पड़ेगा. What is the scenario exactly? Maybe a night out with friends at the casino. All right, all right. All right. So basically, Zara and Alima both have some gambling related scenario in mind. So Zara, Halima is saying कि भाई हम लोग ना क्वेश्चनर पूछने से पहले उनको एक कसिनो लेके चलते हैं, दोनों लोग को, टाइप ऑफ पीपल को, दोस्तों के साथ. जब कसिनो जाएंगे तो गैमलिंग रिसोर्ट वाले लोग कसिनो भी जाएंगे, और जो विदाउट गैमलिंग रिसोर्ट दोनों वो भी कसिनो जाएंगे. उसके बाद सवाल पूछेंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू their experience. Is that what you guys are saying? And use like your schedule to make the responses. Yes. All right. So पहला question तो मेरे पास सामने आ गया है. How do you feel after losing And gambling event. Yeah, losing के बजाय में कुछ something about winning. You we're trying to measure the intensity of positive feeling, right? So your question has to relate with something that measures their positive feelings. Do you want a rematch, or as in, do you want to gamble again? I would guess that's your question. Do you want to gamble again? Likert skill के अंदर तुमने बोला, okay. Do you want to gamble again? Likert skill का 0 से लेके 5 तक पूछोगे, what else? ठीक है, यही है. On a scale 1 से लेके 5, how frequently do you engage in gambling? 1 से लेके 5 तक. So we have 2 questions. भाई rematch करना है, 1 से लेके 5 तक बताओ. कितनी दफा gambling करते हो वो भी बताओ. Okay. Other questions? I need 2 more questions. What is your winning target for tonight? भाई कितने पैसे तुमने जीतने? Okay. Okay. One more question. Zara, I need one more question from you, Zara, please. One sample question from you too. You win. You if you don't win. All right. हारोगे तो तुम घर जाओगे कि नहीं, ये पूछ रहे हो. ठीक है ज़ारा, एक क्वेश्चन तुम्हारी तरफ से भी. Would you divide the money among your friends if you win? क्या तुम दोस्तों में divide करोगे? All right. So these are the sample questions that I've gotten. I don't know कहाँ पे copy paste किया मैंने. बस ठीक है, ये क्वेश्चन था मेरे पास. मेरे पास जो क्वेश्चन था, ठीक है ना. I'm just gonna put all of you guys question in front of you guys, so yeah, so you have a better idea. What is your winning target for tonight? ठीक है, ये दूसरा क्वेश्चन था. ठीक है, टोटल 5 क्वेश्चन थे मेरे पास. 6 थे या 6 थे. How frequently वाला, बल्कि ये scaled 1 to 5 and how frequently. और इससे पहले वाला सवाल था like losing वाला. Scale of 1 to 5. Alright guys, so for example, जितने भी तुम लोगों ने मुझे sample question दिए हैं ना, majority of them, बल्कि नहीं, all of them will be discarded by the examiner. These are the wrong questions you're asking. The reason is every question that you've mentioned, right, does not come close to actually addressing this. How frequently do you engage in gambling? Won't tell me any idea about the positive feelings of the person. This won't even tell me. This will not even tell me. So yeah, that's very important. Because no matter तुम जितना अच्छा experiment design करो, if तुम्हारा question, if they miss the purpose of the experiment, which यहाँ पे clearly did, you're gonna तुम्हारा समझो कि like 3 marks तो आराम से गए, right? So the खतरनाक thing about CIE design experiment is that you're supposed to design some question that relates to the theory that being discussed. These questions don't relate to the theory because at the end you're supposed to measure intense positive feeling of a person. They don't. Okay? You can clearly see they don't. If the person says no, does not tell me. ₹1 winning target, $1,000 a winning target, doesn't tell me. I will go home, I will not go home, doesn't tell me. I will like a rematch again, I will not like a rematch again, doesn't tell me. I will gamble 100 times, I will gamble 1 time, doesn't tell me. I feel crappy after losing money. I don't feel crappy after losing money. Doesn't exactly tell me intense positive feeling, tells me the intensity of negative feelings. So sample question taken up. You have to address the intense positive feelings. So like, if you want to be more specific, you can talk about their emotion, thoughts, and physiological experience about intense positive feelings of gambling. So basically, on a scale of 1 to 5, taken up, how fast does your heart beat gambling? This takes care of the physiological aspect. On a scale of 1 to 5, क्या कहते हैं, how happy do you feel while gambling? Takes care of the emotions, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, क्या कहते हैं, how much of a winner do you think of yourself when you win gambling? This takes care of the thought, right? एक open-ended question भी डाल दूंगा, नहीं बल्कि एक ये भी डाल सकता हूँ, to what extent would you say gambling brings you क्या कहते हैं, positive, brings you pleasure, scale of 1 to 5, right? This kind of will point the questions in this direction. So I'm not saying that this is a perfect question, right? But this is what kind of you should, your like focus should be at, focusing on the question that addresses the theory mentioned in the question. So yeah, if you do this verbally, it's gonna be an interview. If they do this on a form, it's gonna be a questionnaire, right? If the same questions are for everyone, it's gonna be again a questionnaire. But if it's the same question for everyone in an interview, there's going to be structured interview. The questionnaire consists of all closed-ended questions, right? So it is going to be a closed-ended questionnaire giving you quantitative data. All right, so I have my IV and DB, right? There are a few things that you need to discuss. My sample कौन होगा? You're gonna say कि मैं यहाँ पे XYZ people I'm gonna pick out, ठीक है ना? I'm gonna pick XYZ people, right? I'm gonna have 50 females. I'm gonna have 50 males, right? Their age would be like 26 to 36. Largely, that's the answer that I'm gonna get. But hold on, right? This doesn't tell me. This doesn't address the criteria of the people I need. How many of them have a gambling disorder? How many people don't have gambling disorder? ये यहाँ पे mention करना लाजमी, gambling वाले इतने लोग होंगे और बगैर gambling वाले इतने लोग होंगे. All right, so जब तुम sample बता दोगे तो बताना पड़ेगा sampling technique. How did you get them? Gambling वाले लोग आपने कहाँ से उठाए, gambling disorder वाले, और जिनको gambling disorder नहीं था वो कहाँ से उठाया आपने? Gambling disorder वाले लोग will be taken from a local clinic which addresses gambling disorder people, and people who don't have gambling disorder will be recruited from the casino where they normally gamble. ठीक है. The situation, it talks about an event. So basically you have an option यहाँ पे कि are you gonna actually make them go through an experience of gambling? Are you gonna do that, or you don't? You just basically, you know that they have gambled previously in their lives. So using that, are you gonna just directly give them a questionnaire? You have that option. They never said to make them go through a gambling experience. They just said you just have to address a specific event, and you have done that by applying a questionnaire. So I would say save the scenario. Don't make them go through any gambling experience. Just give them a questionnaire directly. ये meeting शायद बंद होने वाली है, ठीक है ना? I'm gonna restart it again.